Madam Speaker, just allow me, Madam Speaker, to acknowledge my husband and one of our daughters sitting in the Our daughter is visiting from cold Chicago and wanted to see her mother in Parliament. Thank you, daughter. I feel very special. Madam Speaker, you will recall that the Independent Fiscal Commission estimated that a budget deficit of 5.3% over the period fiscal year 2025 to 26, fiscal year 2025-26 to fiscal year 2029-30 is well above the legislative threshold of 1.5%. This allowed us to trigger suspension of the fiscal rules. I took the order to suspend the fiscal rules to Parliament for Parliament's approval to permit the fiscal rules to be temporarily suspended. Madam Speaker, the Independent Fiscal Commission, which started on January 1, 2025, in their first report, the Independent Fiscal Commissioner raised a red flag that successive governments have failed to table the revenue measures along with the budget documents, despite it being a requirement as per the FAA Act. Madam Speaker, in the interest of full disclosure, and more importantly, in compliance with our very own law that was passed in this Parliament, and to enable the Independent Fiscal Commissioner to have full visibility into the budget figures in order to do the assessment as to whether the budget is credible or not, we are laying the revenue measures today, as well as the first. Madam Speaker, this government has had the longest number of years of no new taxes in the history of independent Jamaica. Madam Speaker, only a Category 5 hurricane with winds of 185 miles per hour could have interrupted that. Madam Speaker, our adherence to fiscal prudence, putting aside some of our budget for a rainy day, finding financial instruments that would provide ready cash in the event our rainy day buffer was not enough, were some of the wise decisions we made as a government. And oh, how those wise decisions have helped us to quickly respond to bring relief to many left homeless by Hurricane Melissa. So, Madam Speaker, I now turn to the revenue measures to explain what they are and to just briefly continue to give a context. This Honourable House is being requested to take note of the following revenue measures for implementation in fiscal year 2026, 2027, and fiscal year 2027-2028. The passage and impact of Hurricane Melissa has materially altered the government's fiscal environment. The hurricane resulted in unprecedented damage to critical infrastructure, productive sectors, and public assets, placing severe pressure on public finances and reconstruction expenditure, which is expected to extend across the medium term. Against this background, Madam Speaker, expenditure containment and administrative improvements cannot close the emerging fiscal gap. It is therefore imperative that targeted revenue measures to strengthen revenue performance, safeguard fiscal sustainability, and ensure the government's continued ability to deliver essential public services are introduced. The proposed fiscal revenue measures target some areas that are currently undertaxed, such as digital services. Additionally, given Jamaica's commitment to environmental preservation, it is proposed that the Environmental Protection Levy revenues be increased to support the government's recovery efforts. The revenue enhancement also includes a tax on sweetened beverages, which are generally perceived as a threat to healthy lifestyle. So I'll begin with the application of General Consumption Tax, GCT, on digital services and intangibles. The Honourable House is asked to note the intention to apply GCT to digital services and intangibles supplied from abroad and consumed in Jamaica. This measure forms part of ongoing efforts to modernize the tax system and provide fairness in an increasingly digital economy. Digital services now form a growing share of everyday consumption by Jamaican households and businesses. Many of these services are supplied by non-resident providers with no physical presence in Jamaica, resulting in inconsistent application of GCT under existing arrangement. The rapid growth in digital transactions has highlighted gaps in the current tax framework. Similarly, services may be subject to different tax treatment depending on whether they're applied locally or from overseas, placing our domestic businesses at a competitive disadvantage. In addition, the shift towards untaxed digital consumption contributes to revenue leakage and reduces the government's capacity to fund public services. The proposed reform is guided by the destination principle, an internationally accepted standard for consumption taxation. Under this principle, GCT applies where a service is consumed rather than where the supplier is located. In practical terms, this means that digital services consumed in Jamaica should be subject to GCT in the same way as locally supplied equivalent services. The application of GCT on international digital services and intangibles is expected to have a positive revenue impact once fully implemented. The measure is expected to yield in the first instance starting in the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2026-2027 because there's an implementation curve that we have to go up, and we're expecting $300 million in the first instance, but as it is fully implemented in the financial year 2027-2028, we would expect $4.2 billion. Our revenue measure number 2 would be levying the special consumption tax on non-alcoholic sweetened beverages. This Honourable House, Madam Speaker, has been advised that SCT will be introduced under the General Consumption Tax Act on non-alcoholic sweetened beverages. For this measure, non-alcoholic sweetened beverages are defined as all non-alcoholic beverages containing added sugar or other caloric sweeteners, as well as beverages containing artificial or non-nutritive sweeteners, whether carbonated or non-carbonated, and whether manufactured locally or imported. The primary objective of this measure is not only revenue mobilization, it also supports broader public health objectives. Jamaica continues to experience elevated levels of obesity and diabetes, and sweetened beverages are recognized as a significant source of extra sugar consumption. Any reduction in consumption resulting from the price adjustment would represent a positive supplementary outcome. Madam Speaker, this Honourable House is being advised that sweetened beverages are widely consumed across income groups and represent a high volume, consistently traded category of goods. Data from the 2024 Economic and Social Survey of Jamaica indicate that domestic production of carbonated beverages increased from approximately 17.3 million cases in 2020 to an estimated 20.1 million cases in 2024, reflecting sustained demand. Sweetened beverages are currently subject only to the standard GCT rate of 15% and are not presently listed in the Act as prescribed goods for SCT purposes. The proposed SCT will be assessed on a per unit basis, calculated based on the total liquid volume of each sweetened beverage measured in milliliters. The Honourable House is further advised that the SCT will apply at the point of manufacture for domestic producers and at the point of importation for imported products, in accordance with the provisions of the GCT Act. This ensures, Madam Speaker, administrative efficiency and parity between local and imported goods. The SCT will be applied at a rate of 0.02, which is 2 cents per milliliter. The estimated revenue gain associated with levying the SCT on non-alcoholic sweetened beverages is estimated at $10.1 billion and will take effect during the first quarter of fiscal year 2026-2027. At this rate, just to break it down in terms of the estimated retail price impact, it would be as follows for these examples. So for 300 milliliters beverage, it would be $6. For 600 milliliter beverage, it would be $12. And for a 2-liter beverage, it would be $40. Revenue measure number 3 would be an increase in the special consumption tax, SCT, on liters of pure alcohol. The Honourable House is being advised that the special consumption tax, SCT, on all alcoholic beverages will be increased from $1,230 per liter of pure alcohol to $1,400 per liter of pure alcohol. The current rate was established on March 13, 2017, many, many years ago, when the specific SCT increased from $1,120 to $1,230. The proposed increase is intended to preserve the real value of the tax and strengthen revenue mobilization. The Honourable House is reminded as well that alcoholic beverages are subject to both the SCT and the GCT. The GCT is applied on an ad valorem basis at the standard rate of 15% at the point of sale. The proposed measure does not alter the GCT, but only adjusts the specific SCT component. The proposed increases will apply uniformly to locally manufactured and imported alcohol beverages, ensuring neutrality of treatment and maintaining consistency within the existing SCT framework. The estimated revenue gain associated with increasing the SCT on this product, liter of pure alcohol, is estimated at $1.6 billion and will take effect the 1st of May 2026. The next is increase in the special consumption tax on cigarettes. The Honourable House is being further advised that the SCT on cigarettes will also be increased by $3 per stick, moving the effective specific rate from $17 per stick to $20 per stick. The current specific rate was established following the March 13, 2017 adjustment many years ago, which increased the tax then by $3 per stick. The Honourable House is advised that cigarette taxation remains a significant and reliable revenue source internationally. However, tax revenue performance is influenced not only by tax rates, but also by consumption patterns, enforcement effectiveness of public health policy. Increasing taxes on cigarettes are internationally recognized tools to moderate harmful consumption and reduce long-term health costs. The proposed increases will apply uniformly to locally manufactured and imported cigarette products, again ensuring neutrality of treatment and maintaining consistency within the existing SCT framework. The estimated revenue gain associated with increasing the SCT on cigarettes is approximately $1.1 billion and will take effect 1st of May 2026. Moderation of the 20% duty concession on motor vehicles for public officials. The Honourable House is asked to note that the current 20% duty concession on motor vehicles for public officials in certain positions reduces the duties payable when importing or purchasing vehicles. This concession was introduced to reduce the cost of vehicle ownership, support mobility, and assist certain public sector groups in an environment that no longer exists. It represents a significant reduction in government revenues. The Honourable House is asked to note that currently under the 20% duty concession framework, public officials in eligible posts are afforded preferential tax treatment on importation of motor vehicles. Within this framework, both the SCT and the GCT are fully waived, and the applicable customs duty is 20% of the vehicle's CIF value. Consequently, beneficiaries of the concession are required to pay 20% customs duty with no liability for SCT or GCT. The Honourable House is asked to note that it is proposed that the 20% duty concession on motor vehicles be amended. It is proposed that the 20% import duty remain payable, the GCT becomes payable, and the SCT exemption remains. The estimated revenue gain associated with removal of the GCT exemption is approximately $1.3 billion, and it will be effective the 1st of May 2026. Right, the concession remains, but with modification. The next revenue measure is the increase in environmental protection levy rate.
The Minister's time for speaking has expired. Minister, my apologies. Somebody's phone rang in here, sounding the bell, but the time on the clock has not expired. My apologies.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this Honourable House is asked to note that the primary objective of the Environmental Protection Levy is to mitigate environmental degradation, promote sustainable resource utilization, and bolster climate resilience, particularly for Jamaica's vulnerable island ecosystems. It was first imposed on all goods imported, but later extended to the domestic market. At the ports, it is charged on the CIF of imported items, while domestically it is imposed on the sales of locally manufactured goods discounted by 25%. Madam Speaker, events of recent years have underscored the urgent need for enhanced environmental safeguards. This includes implementing stronger penalties to deter pollution. A series of severe natural disasters has further challenged Jamaica's fiscal stability. Hurricane Beryl in 2024, followed by the unprecedented Hurricane Melissa in 2025, which is identified as the costliest in the nation's history, causing estimated damage in excess of US $8.8 billion, approximately 41% of 2024 GDP. These events have imposed a significant financial burden, contributing to a projected decline in real GDP of 0.5% and 4.5% for the 2024-25 and 2025-26 fiscal periods, respectively. In an effort to finance enhancement of climate resilience, it is proposed to increase the environmental protection levy rate to 0.8% from 0.5% for both imports and domestic goods, and to expand the base on which the domestic levy is charged from 75% of sales to 100%. It is estimated that these adjustments will result in $3.639 billion in revenues effective May 1, 2026. The next revenue measure will increase the general consumption tax, GCT, rate on tourism activities to the standard rate of 15%, up from 10%. The Honourable House is asked to note that over the years, the Government of Jamaica has provided special tax treatment to the tourism industry to alleviate the tax burden and propel the industry to a level of maturity. This support was delivered through targeted tax credits, including the Special Tax Credit, STC, and the Special Alcoholic Beverages Credit, SABC. These credits allowed eligible tourism entities to reduce their net tax liability based on prescribed formula, including credits linked to non-tourism revenue streams and to GCT paid on alcoholic beverages used in taxable activities. While effective in reducing the tax burden, these arrangements were administratively complex. In fiscal year 2005-2006, the credit-based system was repealed and replaced with a simplified regime under which the tourism industry was subject to 50% of the standard GCT rate, resulting in an effective rate of 8.25%. This rate was subsequently adjusted in fiscal year 2009-2010 to the current rate of 10%. Since that time, the industry has continued to mature and demonstrate sustained growth in arrivals, room stock, and earnings. In this regard, Madam Speaker, the Honourable House is asked to note that, considering the foregoing and government's revenue needs over the medium term, the GCT rate applicable to specified tourism activities is to be increased to 15%, effective April 1, 2027, because we know that the industry is recovering, and so it will be delayed until 1st of April 2027. The GCT rate on tourism activities is estimated to yield approximately $11.4 billion in additional revenues annually. Madam Speaker, there will be continuation of the annual transfer of $11.4 billion from the National Housing Trust to central government. Madam Speaker, the NHG Act was first amended in March 2013 to facilitate the transfer of $11.4 billion to the central government towards fiscal consolidation for the 4-year period 2013-14 to 2016-17. Given the need for further consolidation on the government's economic reform program of the day, further amendments to the NHG Act were undertaken in August 2017 to facilitate continued transfers for the period 2017-18 to 2020-21. December 2020 to facilitate the continuation of annual transfers for the period 2021-22 to 2025-26. The National Housing Trust Amendment Special Provision Act 2020, the Act, provides for the National Housing Trust to provide a fiscal distribution for fiscal consolidation of $11.4 billion per annum for a period of 5 years, with effect from 2021-22 financial year. Section 3 of the Act provides that this Act shall continue in operation until March 31, 2026, and shall then expire. The expiration of the Act on March 31, 2026 will result in the discontinuation of the annual contribution by the NHT and a significant fall-off in government revenues. Given the impact of Hurricane Melissa on the island, continuation of these transfers across the medium term is necessary to support sustainability of the fiscal operations while reconstruction activities are underway. It is therefore proposed, Madam Speaker, that the annual transfer of $11.4 billion from the National Housing Trust to the central government be continued for another 5 years from fiscal 2026-27 through fiscal year 2030-2031. Madam Speaker, property taxes have remained at the same rate since fiscal year 2016-17. Property values have remained at the same value as they were then on the books of government. Our property taxes support our municipalities and the National Solid Waste Management Authority. The Prime Minister, to whom the National Land Agency reports, has approved the National Land Agency to begin a revaluation of the many parcels of land in Jamaica. This work will take about 12 months, and so that valuation will advise the new property tax rates for fiscal year 27-28. To close, Madam Speaker, we know that we are in the wage negotiation cycle with our public sector workers. We take that quite seriously, coming on the heels of the major wage restructuring. Today, Madam Speaker, this government is indicating that despite the massive disruption of Melissa, totaling US $8.8 billion, or 41% of our GDP, and the debt we must take on to rebuild, reconstruct, and build in resilience in our infrastructure as a government, despite all of that, Madam Speaker, we remain committed to the wage offer that this government has put forward to our public sector workers. And this offer was put forward prior to the devastation visited on us by the Category 5 Hurricane Melissa, with winds of 185 miles per hour on October 28, 2025. That we are able to do so following Melissa is a testimony to the years of fiscal discipline pre-Melissa and the many years to come of continued good fiscal management. Finally, Madam Speaker, last year in this Parliament, as a government, we gave a commitment to the increase in the threshold to $1.9 million for fiscal year 2026-27. Madam Speaker, this government also remains committed to the increase in the threshold to $1.9 million come April 1, 2026. So, Madam Speaker, as I close, my message is a message of hope to all Jamaicans, to say we will rebuild homes, churches, schools, businesses, lives, livelihoods, our telecom network, our electricity grid, hotels, roads, our produce farms, our vegetable crops, fishing villages, animal farms. Madam Speaker, much of that work is already underway. Today, we construct temporary containerized homes because we must move fast to put those in place. But tomorrow, we build permanent structures. Madam Speaker, in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, we gave food packages and hot meals to those who lost everything. Today, we are helping to restore homes and livelihoods and put persons in a position in which they'll be able to put one foot in front of the other and begin life anew. Today, Madam Speaker, we clear roads and replant the electric poles that have been scattered by Hurricane Melissa. Tomorrow, we build highways that are climate resilient, promote efficient connectivity, and have underground conduits for electricity grid and telecom networks. Madam Speaker, this is a government that cares. That wakes up every day with focus and with energy to do the work, to build country, create opportunities, and ensure Jamaicans can live life to its fullest. Madam Speaker, let me close by saying, God bless everyone. God bless Jamaica, the land we love.